There's a moment in every narcissist's journey that experts call the breaking point, that devastating instant when the barrier between their constructed reality and the real suffering they've caused simply crumbles. It's not a gradual realization or a gentle insight. It's an emotional avalanche so brutal it can literally shatter a person. Jordan Peterson has documented hundreds of these moments throughout his career. And what he's discovered about this breaking point will shock you, about the limits of human psychological resilience and the transformative nature of genuine pain, if you want to understand what's really going on inside a narcissist's mind when the mask falls. Subscribe to the channel, like it, and comment below if you already suspected that one day this collapse would happen. The breaking point isn't just a moment of recognition. It's a systemic collapse of the entire psychological architecture that sustained the narcissistic identity. Imagine for a moment having lived entire decades believing you were fundamentally a good person, surrounded by ungrateful, incompetent, or malicious people. Now imagine being forced to see with brutal and undeniable clarity that you were the common denominator in every destroyed relationship, every ruined career, every emotionally devastated life around you. Peterson, drawing on deep insights from analytical psychology and decades of clinical observation, discovered that narcissists build what he calls fortresses of denial, elaborate mental structures specifically designed to avoid confronting the suffering they cause. These fortresses can resist evidence for years, even decades. But when they finally give way, the collapse is not partial, it is total and devastating. But can you imagine what triggers this breaking point? According to recent studies in trauma neuropsychology, it's usually not a single event, but a convergence of multiple simultaneous confrontations that make denial impossible to sustain. This is when all the systems supporting the false narrative fail simultaneously. It could be the adult child who finally cuts off contact and explains exactly why. It could be the spouse who leaves a letter detailing years of emotional manipulation before leaving forever. It could be co-workers testifying in a lawsuit about systematic patterns of bullying and sabotage. It could be a medical diagnosis that forces introspection. What matters is not the specific details, but the absolute impossibility of rewriting or denying reality. And then the fortress crumbles. Peterson describes this moment as one of the most disturbing experiences a human being can go through. It's literally watching your entire identity disintegrate in real time. It's not just admitting mistakes or acknowledging failure. It's confronting the devastating reality that you've been systematically destructive for years, perhaps decades, and that you called it love, leadership, or protection. But are all narcissists capable of reaching this breaking point? Peterson's research reveals something deeply disturbing. Many simply lack the psychological structure necessary to survive this confrontation with reality. It's like discovering you lack the emotional organs necessary to process the magnitude of the suffering you've caused. Can you imagine discovering that your mind was literally not designed to handle certain truths about yourself? Peterson explains that some narcissists, when confronted with irrefutable evidence of the pain they've caused, enter dissociative states. They literally disconnect from reality because the alternative, completely accepting what they've done, is psychologically unbearable. Let us know in the comments if you've ever witnessed someone entering this type of dissociation when confronted with the truth about their behavior. The first stage of breaking point, which Peterson calls reality shock, is characterized by a denial so desperate it borders on delirium. They attack not only the evidence, but reality itself. They construct elaborate conspiracy theories, question the sanity of everyone around them, and insist they are victims of a coordinated smear campaign. It's as if all their psychic energy is redirected into a last, desperate battle against the truth. But this battle is unsustainable. The human brain, even the most resilient, cannot maintain active denial against overwhelming evidence indefinitely. And when resistance finally breaks, what follows can be literally devastating. Peterson documents cases where narcissists, at the exact moment of their breaking point, experience what he calls an empathy flood, a sudden, uncontrollable flood of genuine empathy for everyone they've hurt. Imagine spending decades completely disconnected from the suffering of others and suddenly being able to feel every tear you caused, every sleepless night you provoked, every moment of despair you created. But what happens next will shock you deeply. Peterson revealed that this empathy flood can be psychologically devastating. Brains that have spent decades processing only their own needs and desires are suddenly inundated with the emotional reality of dozens or hundreds of people they've hurt. It's a type of emotional sensory overload that can lead to severe nervous breakdowns. And here's the most terrifying part. According to Peterson, many narcissists at breaking point develop what he calls pain amplification disorder, a condition where they not only feel the pain they've caused, but experience it in amplified form. It's as if the brain, trying to compensate for decades of insensitivity, suddenly becomes hyper-responsive to emotional distress. Can you imagine feeling not just the pain you caused, but feeling it multiplied tenfold? Peterson describes cases where narcissists at their breaking point became completely incapacitated by guilt, spending days or weeks in near catatonic states, simply processing the magnitude of the suffering they were responsible for. But let me tell you something that will completely change your perspective on narcissistic breaking points. According to Peterson's research, there's a crucial difference between narcissists who break down and never recover, and those who manage to use their breaking point as a catalyst for genuine change. The difference lies in the ability to tolerate self-disgust. Without completely fragmenting, Peterson argues that true growth is only possible when you can look squarely at the darkest aspects of who you are and still maintain some coherent sense of self. For narcissists, this means confronting not just individual mistakes, but systematic patterns of destructiveness that may have lasted decades. And so a question arises that few have the courage to explore. Is a breaking point always necessary for real change? Peterson, with his deeply pragmatic perspective, suggests that it is. He argues that narcissists are so resistant to feedback and so skilled at manipulating situations that only a complete breakdown of their defenses can create the opening necessary for genuine transformation. But here's something that will completely disturb you. Peterson revealed that even narcissists who go through the full breaking point, who experience devastating empathy flood, who fully confront the suffering they've caused, even these often try to use their own breaking point experience as a new source of attention and validation. They become the heroes of their own journey of breakdown and recovery. They transform the breaking point into a narrative about their own courage and capacity for change. It's narcissism disguised as humility, using even the most vulnerable moment as a performance to gain admiration. Peterson describes this as meta-narcissism, narcissism about the very process of confronting narcissism. It's an even more sophisticated way of avoiding real accountability, turning even the breaking point into yet another opportunity for emotional manipulation. Leave your thoughts below. Is it possible for a narcissist to have a genuine breaking point without turning it into a performance? Peterson's answer is cautiously optimistic. He documents rare cases where narcissists, after reaching a breaking point, completely withdraw from the search for external validation. They stop telling their story, stop seeking performative forgiveness, and stop trying to impress others with their growth journey. Instead, they quietly dedicate themselves to minimizing future damage and, when possible, repairing what they can without expectation of recognition or forgiveness. But this kind of genuine change is extraordinarily rare. Peterson estimates that less than 5% of narcissists who experience genuine breaking points manage to avoid turning the experience into a new form of manipulation. The vast majority find ways to use even their most honest moments as tools for emotional control. And here's something no one tells you about narcissistic breaking points. They can be contagious to family and close friends. Witnessing someone you love undergo a complete emotional breakdown, even when it's necessary and deserved, can be traumatic. Peterson frequently works not only with narcissists at breaking point, but also with their families, who are trying to process the experience of watching someone psychologically disintegrate. What you'll discover now will transform your understanding of timing and intervention. Peterson revealed that breaking points cannot be forced or programmed. They occur when the individual's psychological structure can no longer sustain denial, and this timing is different for each person. Attempting to force a breaking point can result in increased resistance or, worse yet, permanent psychological fragmentation. This means that families and friends of narcissists live in a kind of limbo, knowing that the breaking point may be necessary for real change, but unable to control or predict it. It's an extremely exhausting and frustrating position. Peterson also warns us of something disturbing. Our current society makes genuine breaking points extremely rare. Social media, superficial therapy culture, self-help movements that promise painless change all conspire to allow narcissists to avoid the kind of brutal self-confrontation that breaking points require. And here's the final question that will haunt you. If genuine breaking points are so rare and so devastating, what does this mean for people who have been hurt by narcissists? Peterson suggests that most will never see their abusers undergo real change. Most will never receive the full acknowledgement they deserve. This places an immense burden on victims. They must find healing and closure without waiting for breaking points that may never come. It's a brutal reality, but Peterson argues that waiting for a dramatic transformation into a narcissist can keep victims trapped in cycles of hope and disappointment for decades. Peterson's final motivational message is paradoxical. Find strength in accepting that some people may never change, even through devastating breaking points. Build your life, your relationships, your peace of mind independently of the possibility of transformation in others. Because true power comes not from waiting for others to break and rebuild themselves, but from building yourself in ways that don't depend on their capacity for change. If you've made it this far, you're probably beginning to understand that the path to dealing with narcissists isn't by waiting for their breaking points, but by developing your own psychological resilience and unbreakable boundaries. In the next video, we'll explore how Jordan Peterson analyzes the exact moment when narcissists finally see themselves clearly, and why it can be even more devastating than you imagine. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell, because this journey is revealing truths about human nature that will forever change how you view relationships and personal growth.